All right, welcome back to Morning Cafe. Time to grind on the current affairs. But today we say that we'll be more of discussing the COVID-19 pandemic in the country, the global fraternity. And we are joined by Zach Mbugi, who's an economist. He will be crunching the numbers, if at all there are any, to crunch on. And we'll also have Alex Mwathi, who's the current affairs analyst. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for finding time to be with us this morning. And 3/4 of the people, or the global fraternity, has written off 2020. I mean, many arguing that actually it's just as good as useless a year. What do you make of that statement? Is it too rough? Is it too tight? Or it is justified based on what we've experienced courtesy of COVID-19?
It is justified because if you recall, COVID-19, as they say in China, was there from around August 2019. So most likely it reached us kitambo sana. And from there, around March, it's like we have been in lockdown. The economy has not been doing well. And remember also, we are coming from a recession. From 2017, 2018, 2019, our economy was not doing well, either because of the elections or because we got some things wrong as a country. So coming from that recession, and then now COVID-19 happens, and then we have all these lockdowns, so that we are not able to import, we are not able to export, our farmers are not doing very well, and all the money that has been promised by government to the farmers to cushion them from these effects is not yet accessible or available. Then we can say that 2020 is already half-wasted, and what we are hearing in the global economy is not also very good, so that we don't expect a lot of foreign direct investments into the country. Africa is going to suffer as well, and these global economies are interconnected because we trade with each other. We manufacture, produce to sell to other people, sometimes not just within ourselves. And it brings me to the next point. We need to look inward now. I think this has taught us that there are things we can do for ourselves without naturally, relying on our neighbors for things that we can make ourselves. We need to sit, gather information, gather data to see what is it we can do. And I believe we can do everything. If KU can make ventilators, if our young people can make applications so that we are able to supply, the digital platform, then it means this is something we can do. So we can look at it also as an opportunity to do better, so that we have a good country, we have a good economy, but we can make it better.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. And coming to you, Alex, Zach speaking on an economic perspective, and in as much as we all know that indeed, some 3/4, a majority of activities are driven on by the monetary value, of course, that they hold. It's also important to look at other sectors, to look at other angles. Do you suppose then that we can confidently write off 2020 as a year that is wasted?
I'm a firm believer that every opportunity that comes in life comes to help us change. I will not write off 2020. I will take it as a year where we had an opportunity as a country, as individuals, to reset, who do business, have not traveled. Yet we are still doing some level of business.
All right.
We are not moving as much as we can, even within the country. And it's an opportunity for each and every one of us to rethink those things that we consider to be very important in our lives and actually reset. So for me, this is the best opportunity. And in history, in life, there is no country or any individual progressed until they reach a point where something drastic happened in their lives and they started moving on.
Right.
If I can put even the Bible, you see, Saul reached a point where he became blind and he became Saul of Tarsus became Paul. And that's when he started preaching the gospel. So which means that this is quite an opportunity for us. And I've been talking to a lot of people, telling them that this is not time to mourn. This is not time to look back, on the side mirrors. It's a time to look at the windscreen in front of us and think, what is it that I need to change in my life? This have given me an opportunity to reset myself so that I can move forward. That if I depended on China to supply me anything, isn't it time that I thought I can produce that thing today in this country? So this for me is not a lost year, it's the best year ever for us to be able to refocus ourselves and to rethink ourselves on the things that are more important in our lives and reset our lives completely.
All right, amazing. Let's bend a bit or an idea that matters economists. That's why you actually have an economist on a board. And lots of changes and shakeups coming, of course, after this. And the latest, of course, is good to discuss what is the latest, is that one of Mama Mboga. And I think it's a story that I've gone through and you've all watched it. And now Mama Mbogas are being told you cannot kata the bogas for your clients. Something that people are looking at differently. Some of them celebrating this, some of them equally saying that, this is now going to drain us. So it's obvious that this economic impact is now going to the lowest of cadres. Will this render us useless, or it's time then that we reconsider reopening and revamping our economy and just figure out how we can stay with COVID-19? Zach?
We should have actually reopened a long time ago. Yeah. We are actually late in reopening the economy. But let me say this as well. The people who innovate, the people who become creative in their business are the people who succeed more in terms of when we have a pandemic like this. So even for Mama Mboga, whatever kind of business you are engaged in, whatever kind of entrepreneurial activity you are engaged in, we need to keep innovating. We have to look for better ways of doing things. Like right now, as my brother Alex here says, we are able to deliver that mboga. We are able to deliver food, we are able to deliver drinks, we are able to deliver medical supplies to people through applications.
Yeah.
So Mama Mboga does not have to actually cut the mboga the way we are used to seeing, but we can move away from that into something even better. Why not come up with packaging? Why not come up with home deliveries instead of having people going into markets in large numbers and possibly risking getting the virus? What else can we do? So solutions are there. So we are changing the whole sphere of business from Mama Mboga up to the level of financial industry in terms of we are using our mobile phones. You remember when we started with President Kibaki around 2003, the mobile network connectivity was very low.
Yeah.
We used to hear of stories in Uganda where Mama Mboga has a phone, and we were amazed at those stories. But today, the connectivity is there. So we are moving into the digital sphere, the information sphere. So in this information sphere, we don't want to leave anyone out there in rural areas just because they do not have innovation. So we need to innovate on the way we do business. Let's do home deliveries. Let's avoid crowds. Let's avoid places where we could spread the virus very quickly. You've seen even churches coming online, and reaching people, reaching their washirika, even in the villages. So these things are happening. So the digital platform, the information age is here with us. So what we need to do is to choose to get an opportunity from there.
All right, as we choose to get an opportunity from all this, Alex, then one would argue that it's not like we've not had innovative minds for the longest of time. We've had our youths with creative ideas, but then again, we are also in a country that in a way has lots of constraints. And sometimes in as much as you'd want to be creative, you'd want to be innovative, you find that your hands are tied. I mean, is it then an opportune time that we are able to, of course, proceed and see some of these innovations being put to use, even as we continue battling with COVID-19 amid all these restrictions that we witness today? And closure of businesses, closure of activities, some of these innovations would require so much so, but then again, it becomes hard.
I just want to address the Mama Mboga and
yes.
chopping off the mbogas. And in my opinion, and is a very early informed opinion, It was a nonsensical instruction, completely nonsensical. The cabinet minister, the cabinet secretary does not live in Kenya. He lives in Mars or some other space.
He's not being realistic.
He's not being realistic whatsoever. He needs to walk to Kariobangi. He needs to walk to Mukuru kwa Jenga. And tell me how you can enforce such a ruling.
But we all said that it's unrealistic for us to be having masks all over. It will be unrealistic for us to be washing hands all over. But it's happening.
We didn't do. There is a practicability of doing certain things. You and I live in a middle class. All these sanitization of that are not happening in Mukuru kwa Njenga.
Well,
let's face it. And the majority of our population live there. So one wishes that we had a government officials who live in Kenya, so they can understand where 60-70% of the population lives, so that when they give instructions or rules or whatever, they make sense. That gives an opportunity to the chief, to the administration, police, who is in that area, to collect bribes. That's it. It's it's not practical to be done.
All right. Well, the practicability of lots of things that are being, of course, being on board is on question, and how would be able to achieve a majority of this. But we have seen the hotel industry doing so well, such that they have been awarded by an extension of their operating hours to 7:30. Initially, they had been told, okay, close down completely. Then we moved from that to a level whereby they have the extension of there was the curfew hours, and then they were told you can only operate up until 4 p.m. when they reopened. And of course, they cried out loud after the extension of the curfew, and the government has heed to their cry. And this is what they cite: because you've successfully done what was expected of you, then we are here to extend your working hours. It seemed unrealistic, Zach, but it worked.
Yes, it is working, and for the simple reason that people are still following guidelines, especially in hotels where I have been, where I have visited. But we also have to take cognizance of the fact that there are places where these protocols are not being fully observed.
Right.
But for an economy, then you cannot close for long, because you are not giving people food. They still have, and about 80% or 70% of our economy is informal. Farming and simple small businesses, mama mboga, that we've spoken about. So you cannot close for a long time, because these people usually make the money during the day to have some food in the evening. A majority of them cannot even afford 3 meals a day. So there is no way, if you're not giving them food and you're not giving them medication, then you cannot lock down for long. So I think that is where now the advice came from. From the word go, at least we were able to have people out there making a living. That way now we removed the necessity of going to households and giving them food. So we only concentrate now on the aged and those disabled and those who cannot go out there to make money. The formal economy was shut down. Remember, tourism was hit from day one when international travel was hit. Tourism is down. Hotel industry had to be opened first, because it was the one that shut down at the beginning. So by and by, then we need to open the whole economy. And we don't need even the curfew. I don't make sense of the curfew.
Why do you say this after the president expounded so well, said that, in as much as I would have wanted for us to reopen and to go back to normalcy as a country, experts argue otherwise. And if at all we're talking about, being realistic and all that, what reality should we go by? The reality of what is being projected to us by the medical experts, or the reality of the fact that, we need to keep the economy rolling? We need to keep the economy moving, because as a country, we are not able to sustain ourselves if we continue with what we are doing right now as containment measures to COVID-19. Alex?
It's critical. I'm an engineer by profession, so I know that if I give an advice in term on engineering, then you're well advised to follow my advice, because chances are you get a good result.
Okay.
So naturally, of course, the the advices that have been there from the medical field
Yeah.
is the best measure for us to be able to take. But I think what Zach is saying is that even when we get the complete medical advice, you also need to consider weigh it against the economic situation, because someone has argued that to open or to open is a moral dilemma, because when you close, you lose lives
Right.
because of hunger.
Right.
If you open,
You will lose life
life because of
COVID-19.
COVID. And you have to weigh the two.
Right.
And it's a moral. It's not basically a technical issue. It's more a moral dilemma. What would you rather have?
But the entire, we'd want to assume that the global fraternity is closed as of now, and we are interdependent. We have been operating on basis of integration and all that. So in as much as we say that, okay, the Tanzanian way, let's do it ourselves and let's do it on our own. I mean, the rest of the world is locked, and we're not able to trade with them. We're not able to comfortably, bring things back to normalcy as they would with them. So don't you think, again, we'll be like shooting ourselves in the foot?
We are having a kind of an experimental way of doing
Yes.
things. No one knows for sure what works and what doesn't work. Let's face it. The World Health Organization, first of all, came and said you must all wear masks. A month into that, they said, no, only the people who are sick should wear a mask. Then that changed to lockdown works, lockdown doesn't work.
Hold it right there. Hold it right there, sir. We'll come back to you. We'll need to fix something. Let's come back to Zach. On the very same note, I mean, how realistic is it? While you can be an economist and you say that, we have to keep rolling, we have to keep staying afloat, so at least we don't drain the economy completely. The realities of trading with other countries, the realities of trading and integrating, on the global perspective. I mean, would they allow us to confidently and comfortably say that we are reopening and we are resuming normal activities?
We are still trading, remember, with other countries, albeit
Yes, the trade is still
way.
ongoing,
Yeah,
but lots of activities have been halted. So why would we assume that we can revive ours?
And that hold is why I'm saying what we need to recover this economy, which was in recession even before coronavirus happened here, is we need a 24-hour economy. We are working to be able to do social distancing. Visit any office, even in government offices. To be able to do social distancing, you need a third of your employees within an office setting.
Yeah.
So that means if only a third are being used during the day, then you need 3 shifts to be able to utilize all the staff members that you have.
Yeah.
That tells you if we work 8 hours for each a third, then we will cover the 24 hours. So we will have people in government offices every day, every hour of the day, including nights. We will have employees working in flower farms, working in offices, working in our chambers. If we can be able to actualize this 24-hour economy, working 7 days a week, except one day where you can choose your Friday to be your off day if you are a Muslim. You can choose your Saturday to be your off day if you are an SDA. You can choose your Sunday to be your off day so that you go to church. That way now, we will be able to recover the time we have lost during this pandemic. Because remember, most offices are still closed. And those that are open, including government offices, are working at a third of their total output.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying here is we needed to open earlier. So we don't need the curfew because we need people to work 24 hours.
Right.
Simple. We can have the lockdown for NMA, the Nairobi metropolitan area and all that, but the curfew should go.
All right. Well, okay, the curfew should go. Well, that's interesting. And we come back to you, Alex. You were expounding more on something, but I'll top up this on it. Have we adopted so well to a point, well, we're saying that we're still struggling as of now to, abide by the measures that have been provided for. And reality again is this: if at all we have to reopen, if at all we have to go back to normalcy or try normalcy again, we have no choice but to abide by the rules that have been put upon. Social distancing, I mean, masks all over, sanitize, washing of hands. Have we adapted this to the level where we can, give confidence to the government that you can proceed and reopen? We will behave, like churches say, we will make sure that we maintain the measures that have been put on board.
I have an advantage in that in my social work, I go to the larger population of this town that stay in the slums, whether it's Kawangware or Mathare or wherever. And we can write a long story, essay on how successful social distance has become and all that. But the practicability of it, Linda, is a majority of the people have no opportunity to practice social distancing.
Yeah.
Because they live in single rooms, they live 5-6 people in the single rooms. The rooms are next to each other. So the majority of the population in Nairobi cannot social distance even if they wanted.
Honestly, like you said, I think
the
government should come back to Kenya and stay in
Yes,
Kenya.
they should come
but
back to Kenya.
you want to tell me that they're not alive to this fact?
So they are not, because they live in mass.
Oh yeah?
Yes, because think of this, Linda.
All right.
Nairobi is locked down. What does that mean? Everybody that is in Nairobi must stay in Nairobi. Last week we saw the Minister of Health himself going to Othaya and going to Nyandarua.
Well, essential services, they said.
Who said that? You go to Britain, the PA to the Prime Minister did a similar thing, and now he's in trouble.
Right.
He will lose his job because of that. Because once you lock, you must not pretend that you're above the law. You are not.
And you cannot move around.
Who told you that he has to go to Othaya or wherever else? Yeah. He has officials there that can do over this period of the COVID. So there's a sense in which we are not serious in what we say and what all that. And yes, I had said earlier that this is a moral dilemma as to which is the worst, whatever. I've watched the US of A, and the president, Donald Trump, had insisted that let's open this economy. But the governors have the power to be able to keep the place locked. Then George Floyd happened.
Yes.
What happened?
They were all out.
The economy opened.
Yes.
Now nobody can tell them lock up. And there's this argument that this thing has been going on for more than 2 weeks, and we haven't seen an increase in terms of the number of cases that are coming out. So the point is, we are doing experiment in terms of what prevents this disease from flowing. We need to follow what the experts are telling us, but also be cognizant of the fact that there are practical issues that needs to be also looked into. You say you lock down people in Mathare, Kawangware, and the rest of the place, and those people want to go out, make some 500 shillings or 300 shillings, come back home and buy unga and eat. If you lock them down, what do you expect them to do? You tell them social distance, but they live 5-6 people in a single room, in a 10 by 10 room, and you're telling them social distance. They laugh at you on your face. The circumstance that I live in, I can't social distance myself. So I think it would be nice for us to be practical, especially the people that are in government, and actually travel in Kenya and go around in Nairobi. They don't need to go to Othaya. They just need to go across to Kawangware, the slums and see the circumstances that
maybe
are
that's what informs numerous cases emanating from Kawangware, emanating from the likes of Kibera slums. Zach, if you are to observe the trends and observe what Alex brings on board, do you suppose then that there is something that is not coming out clear in terms of information for the dissemination of the common mwananchi or any other person who would be of interest?
There is actually no information about the coronavirus as you would have expected. The World Health Organization is groping in the dark. Governments are groping in the dark. Nobody actually knows the economic impact, as it were. Nobody knows what the virus is all about and when it's going to be over. Nobody knows when we can get a vaccine, if it was to be possible. And nobody knows if we have medication that works. Even what we are hearing in Britain is only 30% effective. And without this information, then it means we are all groping in the dark, because one day you have to wear a mask, the next day you don't have to wear a mask. One day 80% of the population is asymptomatic, and asymptomatic people are passing the disease to other people. Then the next day, asymptomatic people are not passing the disease to people. So nobody can tell you with clarity, 100% clarity, that this is what coronavirus is all about. And that's why my insistence on the economy part of it. Okay? We need to reopen. We must reopen. We have no choice because we don't have enough food to give to these people. We don't have enough resources to feed our population. Our population out there is mostly actually subsistence, hand to mouth. So if we do not reopen, then we are putting ourselves up for social destabilization. Where now, and I think that's why then the curfew came. All right? Because we didn't want people moving around at night and going to steal from those who have. That is basically why we had the curfew. You cannot explain it any other way. It was for social order, right?
Alex, you are laughing at this because, well, in a way, while it is funny, it makes so much sense. And, you know, just trying to understand, there's so much that is still unclear about the COVID-19, actually. It's something as unclear as who was the first person to have gotten COVID-19 in the first place. You know, it is that unclear. What if we do not open the economy? What if we do not, you know, drop the curfew? What if we do not drop the cessation? And the numbers that we or projected that we would expect in the event that we overlook all this?
It's very simple, that if we continue treating this thing abnormally,
Are we going
if we treat it as abnormally,
yeah?
The point is, there's a huge projection in terms of the world economy contracting by 6% this year. There's a projection that economies like Kenya, of course, will be hit much harder. So the numbers are showing, I think, at 1.6 or 2%, which I think is a joke. I think our contraction will even be higher because our economy is dependent on small enterprises, SMEs. And SMEs are the worst hit by this lockdown. Right. So if we don't open up, of course, there will be a huge contraction of the economy. With the contraction of the economy, our poverty levels will go up. If our poverty levels go up, crime rate will increase. Because there is no way majority of people have nothing to eat, and there are a few people, because even in this COVID, there's still people who are making a lot of money.
Interestingly.
Like the people who are supplying your masks, they're making a killing for crying out loud. So which means that the haves and have-nots, the gap will grow, and that for me at the end of it is a whole social issue of crime and people wanting to be able to eat on a daily basis. And I think that's why those that are responsible should stop going to Nyeri, Othaya, and Nyandarua and sit down and rethink how they can do a better job of allowing the economy to move forward even in the midst of this. I don't know whether you caught the Director General of Health about a week ago saying that they expect the curve to whatever flatten. By the way, we don't have a curve.
Okay.
We don't have a curve.
All right.
But you say the curve will flatten.
What do we have?
We've tested 100,000 people out of a population of 47 million
That's
in about 100 days. So we are jokers.
Okay.
We have the capacity to test 37,000 people per day.
Do we?
Yes, we do.
Okay. You remember at some point in time, also the World Health Organization questioned the testing capacity of Africa, arguing that sometimes some of these cases could actually be just, not legit because, I mean, we probably do not have the capacity, or we do not have the right facility, or we do not have the right, of course, kits that are expected to help us test.
The government has said we have the capacity to do 37,000. We have done per day. We have done 110,000 in 4 months.
Yes.
Which means we are jokers. Which means those numbers that we have means nothing. Because the test model is so low that if you go by the average that we are getting about 2 to 3%, it means that we have almost, I think, 1 million people who are positive at this particular moment. The government must try to speed that up so that they can be able to understand what exactly. So there is no curve. So, but Amoth said that this curve will flatten in September, which meant that the economy will be closed up to September. that is not good for the entire economy. We need to be able to rethink that, either speed up that. Oh, by the way, you notice that the stuff that were donated by Jack Ma was stolen, eh?
Yes.
From
and
the
also,
government, from
and
the
the cabinet
stores.
secretary says, you know what, I have heard of that too.
Can you imagine?
You have heard of that too, sir? And we're looking into that, so yes.
I flinched. The Minister of Health is telling me that
unfortunate.
he had something like that also.
Yes.
So hence, there's no curve. So we need to really rethink and reopen this economy so that we don't die of hunger. We'd rather have the collateral damage of the few people that get infected. And I think as Africans, we have a bigger ability to resist. This is not scientific, but I think we have a bigger ability to resist these kind of diseases.
Okay, well, so they say. I'll come back to you on the budget, even as we say, let's reopen. So much or a large chunk of what is in the budget has been incorporated towards reviving the economy or making us, go back to normalcy. I don't know whether this is able, or this is, of course, realistic at all. I mean, when you look at the numbers, we'll be coming to Zach later on after this break so that he can help us crunch the numbers and see whether indeed with the kind of budget that we have we'd be able to go back to normalcy after this break. Or COVID-19, or even at this particular time of COVID-19, do they make sense, the numbers? Economic sense for that matter?
To an extent, yes, but to a large extent, no. Because as I told you earlier, we are coming from a 3-year recession. So we shouldn't actually be talking of a COVID-19 stimulus. COVID has been here since March 26, is it? So it's a very short time. But coming from a recession, we should be thinking long term. We should be thinking of reviving an economy that was already on its knees. So many people had lost their jobs before Corona. So many companies had closed. Just walk down a street anywhere in Kenya, you will find that shops that were open, say in 2017, 2016, are closed. Monies that were coming in, even foreign remittances that were coming in 2016, 2017 are no longer there. So what we need is a huge economic turnaround. I don't know if we can afford it. But then the government can do this. Number one, government has no business being in business, so they should privatize all these parastatals that are not that are just taking our taxes. The KQs of this world. So many Mumia sugar. We can't keep bailing out companies that are not making sense, economic sense in a country. If the government was to privatize, these farms would be run in a profitable way from the way the private sector works, the way Mama Mboga works. If I'm buying my mbogas from a shamba and I'm not making money, I stop buying mbogas and I start doing beans. So that's how you run economies. We have to make money. Number two, we have to expand the middle class because we have collapsed it in the last 3 years, so that we have had more poor people, more people moving from the middle class down to the lower class. So we need to raise them up. And because we have very many enterprising young men and women who are already digital, who are already in ICT, we need to fund ideas, from banks. I don't know if there is anyone in Kenya who has ever got a loan from a bank to actualize an idea. But this is where we should be headed. Where is the capital? Right? The capital is in the banks. The capital is in the youth funds of this world, the Cherry Fund. But these monies are not accessible, as I told you. So we need these regulations to make this money available to the youth. Number three, the central bank needs to lower the rate of CRR, the capital reserve ratio, from 4 percentage points to around 1, so that we release money to the banking industry, so that the financial industry is able to lend to entrepreneurs.
Okay.
That way now we broaden the base of taxpayers and we also broaden the base of entrepreneurs. Yes.
All right. President Uhuru Kenyatta the other day saying or calling upon African leaders to ensure that they make the best of the youths because it would come in handy towards ensuring that the economy is revived at this point of COVID-19. But that aside, and I come to you, Alex, even as we say, let's reopen, even as we say, probably, there's so much that is still not clear about COVID-19 and we should put it aside and focus on how best we can survive. There's a lot of stigma that is associated with this. There's a lot of negativity and uncertainty that is associated with this. How do we ape this out? How do we wipe it out?
You mean the whole issue of people accepting that there's COVID-19 or not?
Stigma, you see, well, that is key.
Yeah.
And also the aspect of stigma, the fact that, yes, there's an assumption that it's there, and people are not even coming out to speak if they have been diagnosed or if they have been found to have COVID-19. Nobody is coming out to say that, yes, I have COVID-19, apart from the Brenda case that we experienced the other time. I mean, because there's so much fear and stigma that revolves around this. So how do we get the society out of that mentality, of that feel, so we can be able to go back to normalcy and function as normal people?
Well, in my mind, what happens is that the way you communicate something determines how that thing would be appreciated. And I think, Linda, you being in media, you know that you can create an agenda. The agenda for COVID-19 has been that if you are positive, then you are a danger to the society. And if you are a danger to the society, the only thing that you can do is to stay away. And that's where the stigma comes from. That when you have COVID-19, which is Homa, is a flu.
It is basically a flu.
It's basically a flu. We should stop making it look like it's the end of the world.
Right.
You saw how the Chinese were doing in Wuhan. They will lock up, and there are videos that are coming that people would actually be crying inside the houses, and they would be barricaded inside the house. We must come up and say, like tuberculosis. If your relative has tuberculosis, what you need to do is just to take care that you don't get the spit-ons, you don't get close to him enough to be able to get it. Now here, when you're supposed to, if you are found that you had it, and you're in contact with anybody who was positive, you are locked up in an isolation station. And I keep thinking, what a nonsensical thing to do. What a nonsensical thing to do. I was in contact with someone with this thing, and it's like death. It's like a death sentence. And I think the government must come out and stop this nonsense and allow people to be able to self-isolate themselves. People are sensible enough to do that so that we remove the stigma. Those of us who are slightly older, when AIDS was found in 1984-85, it was exactly the same. You knew that if somebody was positive, HIV positive, they were dead at a particular moment. And people mostly died because of the worries that they went through. The same thing with this COVID-19. We need to rethink very completely how we handle those people that are found to be positive. There are people who are sick. There are people that need to be taken more care. If we can take tuberculosis patients at home today, you remember in the olden days they used to be isolated also. But today they come home. Once they start taking the medicine, they come home. What you do is just take care that whatever they eat with, the utensils they use, the room they sleep in, you isolate them within the house without making them feel isolated. They're still part of the family. In the same way, if we do that with COVID-19, then it will help us to remove the stigma that is with this COVID-19.
And
talking about budgets.
Yes.
Talking about budgets. Very interesting. I have only one comment. Zach knows I have decided not to comment about budgets because they don't make any sense. Because number one, they are done, they're never followed. Number two, the government, from the day they announce the budget, they know they will misuse 40%, and they will tell you openly.
Sadly.
So basically, but the key thing about budgets is this. One of the items that controls this economy is oil. Fuel,
yes.
Linda,
And
the government demands 54 shillings per litre of petrol
super petrol,
as taxes, irrespective of the price.
There's no
That's the minimum. You ask anybody, you call somebody from the fuel industry here, they'll tell you that. So which means when you are buying fuel at 82 shillings, 54 was going to the government as tax. Now that you are buying at 89, their share is about 55 shillings.
It goes up,
In the United States of America today, a liter of petrol is 35 shillings. Which
Yes,
means
petrol comes
the price at the pump
Yeah.
is almost half the tax the Kenya government is taking. So that tells you the rest of the stories are nonsensical.
Well, all right. Well, that's an interesting way to look at it. Zach, you had some reservations in regards to the stigma that is being projected by the day, and it is pretty much sad, because if we are to reopen, if we are to go back to normalcy, it becomes very hard if we are all again so suspicious.
I think what most people are forgetting is other diseases are still here with us. We've lost more people to floods than to COVID-19. In the first 2 days of the curfew, we lost more people to police brutality than we lost to coronavirus. We still have cancer, we still have diabetes, we still have other diseases, and people are not going to hospital because they believe if they go to hospital then they will come back with the coronavirus. So we need to remove that. We need to tell our people that these other sicknesses are still with us. And that's why I'm wondering why we have the curfew in the first place. We are just making money for the police. And masks, we are making money for the police. I remember guys, policemen going to chambers and arresting people that they don't have a mask, and they're in the chamber cultivating. That's a public place. You need a mask, and you have to part with the 200 bob to go free. So why do we have 20,000 fine for a mask? Why don't we do it the way Joho did? Give the policemen these masks. Instead of arresting people who do not have them, let them supply. The masks to them. And then another question that is probably coming on strongly, when we talk of opening and closing the economy, when we had very few numbers, we locked. When we have big, huge numbers, 3,000, we are opening. So it doesn't make sense. We should have opened. We should never have closed.
Have locked in the first place.
And then nobody is
the numbers
telling
would have
you,
been worse today.
Yeah, and nobody is telling you. And that's why sometimes we get bored of the afternoon briefings by the minister, the MOH, because they are not telling us how far are we in getting a vaccine. Are we funding research? So how far are we in getting medication? What are we doing to those patients who are recovering? Are they recovering miraculously, or are we giving them this kind of medication? So this information is not there. And then we are not being told, has lockdown worked? We had key performance indicators.
They say it works because they say the projections would have been worse right now.
Where are the statistics? Where are the numbers? So has it worked in Nairobi only? Has it worked in Mandera? Has it worked in Lokicha? So where is it working? And in terms of transmission, remember we are the ones who allowed the visitors to come in very early on in the year. So what has changed? So why are we opening now? So when you don't have answers for all those questions, then you don't believe your government. You don't believe the information coming from them. So they are the ones who have created this scenario of misinformation. So what we need to do is, we need to open the economy, we need to do away with the curfew, and we need to bring food prices down. I remember suggesting that we need to get away the VAT on fuel for 6 months, so that fuel comes down, electricity goes down, because you remember there is a component of fuel in your bill. There is an inflation adjustment. I don't know why they should adjust for inflation. It's like we don't live in the same country. So we shouldn't have this. If we were to do that for 6 months only, then we would be able to bring prices down. And are we buying from farmers? We have 500 million for milk. Are we buying?
From our very own.
From our very own. And then we look inward. Do we even need to import toothpicks, kiberiti? Do we need to? Can we make them locally? And when we speak of the 4 agenda, One of them is manufacturing. So how realistic are we if power cost is so high up, if our production cost is so high up, when are we going to achieve production and manufacturing locally? Are we even supporting these local industries?
Okay. And on talk of not supporting the local industries, and very many people have lost their jobs, very many people who are actually doing their own businesses cannot be able to sustain the businesses as it stands today. And this has rendered a majority of these people, getting to the level of divorce. Because then as a man, you're not able to provide for your family anymore, and a woman cannot cannot sit there waiting. Of course, not to paint a picture of that it's the man who's supposed to provide squarely, no. And we've seen cases of suicide on the rise. We've seen negative cases, social ills on the rise. Alex, all this coming from, of course, the stigma that surrounds the COVID-19 pandemic, coming from the troubles that surround the COVID-19 pandemic. Where does it place us as a fraternity?
It's a difficult position to be in. Tough, really tough, and one cannot belittle the whole effect of this COVID-19 and the lockdown that it has precipitated in this country.
Right.
For those of us who talk to a lot of people, we know that the struggles are heavy. Companies are not only laying off people, but majority of businesses are reducing the salaries of workers to an extent of, in some cases, of up to 50%. And these are not stories; these are facts.
Yeah.
That with the COTU and the FKE agreeing that even unionizable staff can be reduced. I've seen a movement where all companies now are negotiating their unions to lower that to reduce that by almost 10-15%. It's not a short-term loss; it's a long-term loss. So you can imagine when you lose 40% of your income, it means that you really have to adjust your entire life so that you can be able to fit in that. That comes with a lot of pressure on everyone. On first of all the head of the house, the wife, the children, and everything, because everybody now has to start thinking that they will need less. It's really a sad situation. It's a difficult situation. But my advice to all of us is to reconsider and think about this as a moment of resetting. So that my salary was 50,000 shillings. Now it's 30. What is it in my life I must cut out so I can be able to live within 30? The problem with a human being is that that's normally, it's much easier to adjust upwards. You can adjust
pretty much fast.
Immediately, day one.
As they say, women don't go back socially. So if you are here, you cannot go back.
You can go back, yeah. But it's so difficult for you to adjust from top to bottom. I was eating sausage in the morning. Now I need to just take plain bread.
Yeah, becomes very hard.
I was eating mandazis. Now I need to eat half a mandazi. And do I need a whole mandazi? So it's quite a tricky situation. And my appeal every moment is that all of us must refocus our minds to think that this thing is not going away in terms of the changes it has cost. This thing must make us better than we are today. So that if my salary was 50 and now it's 30, I must readjust myself so that my expenditure goes to 30. And it's not an easy thing, Linda. You know, the people who are watching us are saying, what is Alex saying?
For a moment, you're not being realistic.
Yes. But that's realistic. That you must adjust yourself downwards, and so that if ever you go to 50, you see that as an extra blessing for you in your life. So that doesn't become an expenditure item, but becomes an investment item. Because what has happened is that we are such a consuming society that even people who earn 1 million shillings don't invest anything. People keep adjusting their level of living and they consume everything. Yet at every level, we must have a situation where 10-15% of your total income must be invested for long-term investment. And I'm not talking about people who earn 100,000 or 50,000. I'm talking about everyone. Adjust your life so that you can be able. This is what, for me, I see this as a big opportunity for us to reset our lives so that you can live better going forward.
All right, talking of adjustments, key sectors right here in the country grappling on how best they can find themselves back. Of course, the the religious industry, and not forgetting schools that are set to reopen gradually, as what the president said, that come September the 1st, will witness gradual reopening of schools. We can only wait to see whether that happens, but a lot of, recommendations in regard to this reopening aspect. As we take a look at this before we get to wind up, parents are supposed to bear the brunt of this, according to what was said yesterday, and a majority of them will have to part with so much money to fund the masks, to fund all the sanitizers for their children in the event that they go back to school. Is that what the parents would wish to hear right now, Zach?
No, in this economy, no. And I hope by the time we reach to opening of schools and colleges and all the other institutions, we won't need to have these masks on. Can someone go out there and do the research and give us the figures? Because if asymptomatic people are not passing the virus, why are they being forced to wear?
Well, the CS for health
yes,
said
let them go out
case.
there. Let them go out there, get the data.
Don't
just tell us the World Health Organization saying it may be working for someone. So we need the facts, we need the data, so that we are able to do this together. Right. And if you want us to pull together, let's have the right information. Let's have the correct information. Because out there, we are also, educated. We are also doing our own, research. Yeah. We are listening. We are right-thinking people. So we are listening to the World Health Organization. We are looking at what is happening on the ground. So we also have some point here. So we need convincing that this is, because loading money on this already, burdened parents is not making sense. 50% salary cuts, and then you want me to give you, some more money in schools. So why? Can you convince me? Can you give me the facts? Can you give me the figures? And also to add on to what Alex had said earlier, in terms of reduction of expenses. So if I am supposed to reduce expenses at home in my office, then why am I increasing expenses in school? It should go in tandem. It should be equitable. And then another thing I remembered, as we reduce expenses, which is a good thing, we should also think of other sources of income. Sometimes our education system throughout the world narrows our mind to only feel that because I'm qualified as an engineer as Alex, I can only do engineering. I have seen Alex do a lot of things besides being an engineer. Because I am an accountant, I can only, eat books. I can't go out there and utilize my talent. And talent is one way of earning some extra income. There is another way that I have found very, very practical. If you go to your own house, at home, wherever you are, Kibera, Kileleshwa, wherever, you have a lot of stuff that you don't use. You had bought a radio earlier, but you don't use it anymore. Shoes, clothing, items of electronics, computers that you don't use, you don't need anymore. If you could pile these items and get rid of them, sell them, you might get some extra income there and start a business. So these are some of the things that we need to do. As we adjust downwards, we also need to have more sources of finance. Kenyans are very creative people. Very creative and very hardworking. So I know we can get through this together.
Thank you so much, Zach, right there. Alex, what is this one thing that you have discovered about yourself? Maybe that extra talent that you had, or something creative that you've done during this time of COVID-19 as we wind up. Yes, now that, Zach has shared.
Man on the spot.
Yes.
One of the things that I've found is that there are a lot of stuff that I had in my house that I don't need. And I have made sure that I've given them out. I've not sold them because it's more blessed to give than to receive. I'm looking at the possibility of I do some bit of motivational speaking, and this moment has become so important because I've had people call me to talk to me, to ask me on on what they need to do at this particular time. I've had a good number of people who are retired,
Right.
and they're telling me that we have these funds, what do I do with it? So I've discovered
Incredible.
that I have a huge talent in advising those kind of people.
Amazing, right
So
there.
that's going to be
Yeah.
my next big thing, even after COVID.
Right, incredible. Well, I have not discovered anything, sadly, because I've been working all through, but we thank God all the same for this experience. And like we all say, I mean, we come out of this better because we'll have picked key lessons that are going to be helpful in future. Thank you so much, Zach Ngugi. He's an economist, and Alex Mwati, who we just learned that he's an engineer too. And amid all those other discoveries that we have picked, thank you so much for your time this morning. And thank you so much for keeping us company. We're taking a short break right here on Morning Cafe. We'll be right back with the lifestyle segment.